Hey guys, this is Megan from You Go to Be Kidding. This week we are talking about meat chickens. Is it worth it to raise your own meat chickens? How much does it really cost? What kind of equipment do you really need? And we wanted to answer those questions for you today. We have been raising chickens for 4 years now, and we have slowly grown each year. We started with just a few, and this year we're doing quite a few. And so we wanted to share what those costs have looked like, what equipment we've really needed, what equipment has kind of made or break the difference on processing day. And so let me show you what we have and how it's been working for us and break down those costs so you can get an idea of what it takes to raise your own meat chickens on your own farm. Each year we have gotten bigger. Our first year we only raised 30 birds and we had the bare minimum equipment. So I'll go over the costs of what that was and what you need to get started for just your very first round. And now we are doing batches of 80. We plan on doing 3 batches of 80 birds this year. And so we have more equipment and more things in order to make that happen. And so I'll kind of show you what things have cost us over the years and talk about what you need. And so you can kind of figure out what size works best for your family and what you're trying to accomplish. But I wanted to share those costs because I know sometimes it can sneak up on you how much things cost. But also we utilize used and scraps and whatever we can repurpose. That's how we work around here. So let me show you what is involved in the first place, starting with these tractors back behind me, and we'll talk about some different costs as we go. So these are our 2 main tractors. These are the Joel Salatin style tractors. These are 8 foot by 8 foot, while Joel's are 12 foot by 12 foot. And that is due to the wood we had on hand and the fact that we did not have a welder or any way to make his little cart that helps move these. We did rig up some rebar style axles, and we used these Harbor Freight like wagon cart wheels and slide them on there, and that helps us wheel these around. But these are built with scrap. This is some scrap decking. Our friend actually built this one for us, and this one is built with mostly old pallet wood. Actually, we stripped down some pallet wood. It's been a while since we built these, so I'm not going to be perfect on cost, but the roofing and the fencing are the main costs on here. So a couple $100 for sure on making sure that these are secure, but the wood on both of these was totally free. Number 1 tip, keep them lightweight. Make sure you're not using too much wood. So a couple $100 per tractor. So our first year we just had 1 tractor. It was probably $200 is what I would say in roofing and fencing. And then this waterer is not technically a necessity, but I would almost put it in the necessity category. So this is a Bell waterer. It auto feeds from this 5-gallon bucket. It is normally hanging down from these hooks here. And it costs about $80 to get in. And so when I saw that price, I choked a little, but that has been so helpful. Those chickens will go through a 5-gallon bucket of water on one of these hot summer days. And if you can imagine trying to fill up the normal chicken feeders sitting on uneven, bumpy ground, enough times for 5-gallon buckets worth during the day. Sometimes they'll go through more than 1 bucket. So keep that in mind when you hesitate to buy the $80 feeder or waterer. I get it, but it's been worth every penny. So besides the tractor and the waterer, there's some other things too. So you actually have to buy the chicks. Those have been about $4 a bird, although they have crept up to $4.36 or something like that this year. So their cost keeps creeping up. So you have $4 in the chick itself, and you have a couple $100 in a tractor and an $80 waterer. And don't forget the brooder supplies. So you've got to brood those little chicks once you get them in. We use brooder plates from Tractor Supply. They're just a Producer's Pride brooder plate. They're about $50. So for 30 birds, 1 is just fine. And you'll need some water dishes for those little guys as well. And those will run you about $10. And then the little tray feeders, those will run you between $5 and $8 as well. So if you're just doing 30 birds, you really just need 1 of each of those things, maybe 2 of the feeders to make sure that they can all get good access to the feed. So that's brooding them. And then you get them out on the field in one of these tractors with the water, and you can just use normal chicken feeders is all we do. We have not bought the fancy tray style feeders. And those plastic, we like to use the 10-pound feeders so we don't have to change it quite as often. And those will run you almost 20 bucks a piece, but one, maybe two for 30 birds. Again, you want to make sure that all the birds can be eating at the same time, or at least like half of them so they can swap. They get pretty greedy on eating the food. Basic equipment for processing day starts with the kill cones. And with our first batch, we just started with one. You need a kill cone and a knife to process. You need a 5-gallon bucket underneath. Then you move to scalding and plucking, and then to the table for eviscerating. Once it's all cleaned out, then you need a cooler and some ice to keep it cool. And finally, you need a shrink wrap bag to wrap it up in and dunk it, and then freezer space, of course, to store it once you're done. So all of those things, as you get more and more chickens, or as you decide to do more, you'll have to add the cost of those. So it's a little hard to stay organized on where the costs are and where we're talking about, but I wanted to go through those real quick. A kill cone is going to run you about $40 unless you can find some used. Good knife, we love Havalon knives. They have a surgical blade on them. They're super easy to change out, and they're really cheap to get new blades. That is also about $40. You'll need at least 2 good knives, because you'll need one for the person on the kill station and one for the person on the processing table. The scalding. So you don't need a fancy scalder to start. It is helpful, but we just used a turkey fryer. I found one on Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving on clearance for $40. It was a big pot and the burner, the propane burner below. And then you have to refill your propane tank. That can run you $20 to $30 to swap that out. Once you have scalded, we also use some heat resistant gloves to stick in the scalder, and that'll run you about 20 bucks for those gloves to protect your hands as you dip the birds in and pull them out. The plucker we borrowed our first year, but when we did purchase one, we were able to find one used for $400. I believe you can find one for about that $400 to $500 mark from maybe Tractor Supply, but if you can find one used, that would be awesome too. Once the bird is plucked, it goes over to the table. Our lifetime tables cost us about $100 from Costco. They're the 8-foot plastic tables that do not fold in the middle. I didn't want seams in there and stuff to collect. So they are the solid tables. And let's see, some bowls or Ziploc baggies to store anything like feet or hearts or livers that you might want to save. And I'm gonna assume you have those, so I don't have a cost for that. There are bugs crawling all over me. Once they are processed, you also need a 5-gallon bucket under that table to put the things you don't want in there. And then a cooler and ice. We get our coolers from Costco as well. They're about $100 for these extra large coolers. I'll figure out how many quarts it actually is and put that on here as well. It's about $100, and we use about 4 20-pound bags of ice in each cooler. 3 to start out the day with a little bit of water, and then when we're all finished and it's full, we put another bag on top to make sure they cool down. And bags of ice around here run you about $6 per 20 pounds. Once it's done, then you have the shrink wrap bags, and we buy them in a larger bulk, so it's about $50 for 100 bags. They're going to be a little bit more expensive if you buy fewer bags, but that's up to you and however many birds you are raising. So those are the basic costs from the tractor and the brooder to get them going and to processing into your freezer. It can add up quickly, but we borrowed a lot of equipment that first year, and we made do with makeshift coolers or whatever we've got, and each year we've added to that. So for one round for 30 birds, that worked out all right. But the biggest holdup on processing day is that kill station. It takes several minutes to wait for the bird to be ready to be scalded. And scalding takes a little bit of time, between 30 seconds and a minute or so. than to plucking. And so if you want to get efficient and be doing more birds, you've got to be able to kill more birds at a time and have them ready to be scalded and plucked right away to get to the people who are eviscerating. So for year 2, we were able to get some more kill cones. We were able to get the plucker and kill cones and a bunch of different stuff from somebody who was getting out of processing their own chickens. And so we went to 4 kill cones, and now we're even up to 5, and that has been huge. Again, kill cones are about $40 a pop. So all the costs have really stayed the same. One big upgrade we made for year 4. We've made do for years 1 through 3 with our turkey scalder, turkey fryer, big pot and burner. But the second holdup, once we fixed the cones, those were going well. We were able to kill enough birds, but managing the scalder got to be too much with how many birds we were doing. So, you put the birds in, some water splashes out, you put out the flame, or you have the burner on, the water gets too hot, and then that can peel the skin. The water gets too cold if you have to add more water. And so managing the water in the pot became the holdup for our systems. And so this year 4, we finally purchased an electric scalder. We bought the one from Roots and Harvest. It worked excellent. So this is the first time we've used it. It saved us so much time not having to manage that water. It stayed the temperature we needed it to, and so that was a wonderful upgrade for this year. But we definitely did just fine, especially with smaller numbers of birds, with our turkey scalder pot. So that electric scalder did run us about $350. It's a little bit more than that on their website right now, but we waited for a sale. I can't remember if it was 20 or 30% off, but we were willing to wait. We really wanted to get the electric scalder last year, but it just didn't work out with timing and pricing, and so I just waited all year, and as soon as it went on a great sale, I grabbed it. It might have even been around Black Friday. I'm not sure exactly, but under $300 for that. No, wait, what did I just say? About $350, sorry. About $350 for that electric scalder. And so that's a more expensive piece of equipment, and the plucker is by far more important than the scalder. So if you have to spend money, do the plucker first. And then over the years, we've had to add other equipment as well. So for our 4th year, 80 bird rounds. We are doing 3 rounds of 80 birds. So we have 5 kill cones. We have an electric scalder. We have a plucker that we've had all these years. We have 2 work tables. We have a pop-up tent for shade that probably cost me about $100 off Amazon as well. We have 2 big coolers from Costco that were $100 each. We've borrowed other coolers other years, but this year we have 4 slightly smaller coolers that we were able to buy secondhand. So costs on those would probably be $60 to $70 each, but we didn't have to pay that. So look for use, look for Marketplace. So we're running, it took us 2 extra large coolers and 3 pretty decently large ones. If I can find the quarts rating for you, I will find them. But the other 3 we have were smaller than the Costco ones. So 5 coolers. We have 4 Havalon, nope, I take that back. We have 5 Havalon knives at $40 each, and we have 3 poultry shears for their necks, and some stainless steel bowls that we were able to pick up at a big discount, and those are helpful for all the things in the kitchen. And 5-gallon buckets galore. We also have 2 tractors, and we actually have a 3rd Johnson Scovich tractor that we didn't use this round. We might use. We've been using it for baby goats to keep them separate at night, and we've been using it for some pullets that we have out. So we have a 3rd tractor on hand. We did not officially use it for this round, so we may not need it. I thought we would, but they were doing all right. So about 40 birds. It was 37. There were 37 birds in our 8-foot by 8-foot Joel Salatin style tractors. All right, so the one thing I really haven't talked about much is feed, and it only really works to talk about feed for this group of 80 because that's the numbers I have. I do have some numbers that I found online for how much to expect each week for chickens to eat, and I can try to find that link. I'm not sure if it's still up there, but feed for 80 chicks, we pay $25 for 50 pounds of chick starter That is from a local farm. They're not certified organic, but they do grow all of the grains on farm and they don't spray anything. So basically organic grains without the price tag and supporting a local farm as well is super cool. So thankful for that resource. So chick starter is $25 a bag. We used 200 pounds, and so that cost us $100. That was 4 bags there. And for grower, starter is the first 3 weeks. Then grower is the next 5 weeks. We process right at that 8-week mark. I think this year this batch was 7 weeks and 5 days. Sometimes we do 8 weeks in 5 days, and that extra week adds a bunch of feed. So, but grower is $20 a bag for 50 pounds. We bought 900 pounds of grower feed, and that cost us a total of $360 for this batch. We ended up raising, it was 74 birds, but one of them, when we plucked them, had something super strange going on with one of its wings, and we don't have generations of knowledge from our ancestors, grandparents and stuff telling us what's safe and not, and that looks too sketchy for us. So bird 74 went in the compost pile. So 73 birds. It ended up being 496 pounds of meat, which is a 6.8 pound average, which is amazing. And then even factoring in that we bought 80 birds and we're all the way down to 73, it still comes out to $1.35 a pound. And that's fantastic. Now that's just $1.35 a pound is the cost of the chick and the cost of the feed. So $1.35 is the cost now that I own all of the equipment. I don't factor the equipment in because I'm not selling my chicken. I do this math because I want to know. I want to make sure that we're not spending too much on feed or feeding them too much or getting out of control with some of these numbers. So $1.35 a pound for the chick itself and for the feed to raise it up. And that is pretty awesome. So all the other costs included, and then of course our labor. They have to get moved every day. Sometimes near the end they get moved twice a day. And processing day, of course, setup, the work, cleanup, and managing that. And then the freezers, even the freezers and the electricity to manage that has a cost associated with it. But that's going to mean more or less to different people depending on what you already have going. I already have a freezer full of things, so I don't really add that here per se. Now, if I was trying to sell this chicken, absolutely the fair market rate for organically raised pastured chicken is $5 a pound. And that's pretty hard to afford if you are, if you've got a family. $5 a pound makes an almost 7-pound bird a $35 chicken. And I think I'd be pretty hard pressed to pay $35 for a chicken, but it is super cool to be able to raise this high quality meat for our own family. If we have extras, we try to give some away to friends if we can, but it's not worth it for us to raise them to sell because $5 is such a high price point. Worth it, and lots of people do, but just to let you know, I should try to work out all of these costs and divide it by the pounds. But the maintenance on the tractors, we have to upkeep these wooden tractors. The wood rots out, the plastic breaks, so there's a lot of upkeep. There's a lot in here, and I should maybe try to add that up sometime, because $1.35 is going to make it seem like, whoa, why are people charging $5? Because it's hard work. If you are thinking about raising your own chickens, I think it's totally worth it. But our biggest tips would be to start small, use what you have on hand, and grow with your skill. We can now process 80 birds in the time that it took us to process 30 birds that first year. So don't try to do 80 your first year unless you have a whole lot of really good friends. But it's going to take you a long time because you're not going to be used to what's happening. If you can find friends who are doing it, go offer to help them and learn how to do it yourself so you can get faster before you're trying to do it on your own farm. But it's 100% worth it if you know what you are getting into, and we're so glad that we are able to do this. It's such a big blessing to be able to run birds on our property, and I'm thankful for the meat. So if you have any questions or feel like I missed anything or want to know about anything else in our process, please let me know in the comments below. Be happy to answer it. So I hope that you are inspired to go take a shot at raising your own meat birds and I will see you next week.